After 400 floors of bottomless buffet in Splatoon Raiders, I've finally obtained what I think is the best weapon in the entire game, the Primo Butane Blaster. That means it's time to take a look at Primo weapons and how they work with my two weapons of choice. Why is this weapon so much better than the other blasters in the game? When a weapon like Blaster or Dynamo Roller drops, it's chosen from one of three types: ink efficiency, ink coverage, and firing rate. There are no differences in base damage between the weapon types. Primo does not affect base damage either. And damage is important because the main cause of losses later in the bottomless buffet is the inflated health of boss Salmonids. That seasoned steel eel has way more health than it should. They've got millions of health, and I'm not exaggerating. Later gadget upgrades allow your ink to be effectively infinite, so ink efficiency weapons are a waste once Primo weapons become available. Ink coverage weapons are unnecessary because your gadgets cover the ground in ink explosions. It may be easier to hit surrounding targets, but that won't help you deal single target damage to boss Salmonids as far as I'm aware. And Speed Tank lets you swim on any surface and cover it with your own ink for a single relic slot, or it's free if you're using Speed Tank. So Primo ink coverage feels like another option that would be good in the normal Splatoon games, but kind of got power crept here in Raiders by the gadgets themselves. That leaves my take on weapon categories in a pretty dismal state. There's only a single category of weapon drops actually worth using, with the other 2/3 being immediately worse in comparison, basically trash in my eyes. In a loop-based game, that makes the drops feel pretty painful to me, especially when I'm still getting assaulted by 1-star drops when I'm out here destroying level 200 Salmonids on floor 400. The downside of the firing rate category is supposed to be that firing faster consumes more ink, but you deal a lot more damage per second here, and the rounds are 90-second time limits, so speed is pretty important here. A single ink refill gadget is all you need to never worry about ink again. Any weapon at 4-star or 5-star has a certain chance to be a cooler looking Primo variant. At level 400 of the bottomless buffet, a lot of my higher ranked drops are Primo, but I still get a lot of trash, including normal 5 stars and 4 stars. I initially expected Primo to come with some sort of trade-off. Surely the ink spread is lower, or the range is shorter, or the ink consumption is higher on a Primo weapon that's maximized for firing speed, right? But it turns out, not at all. I discovered that all weapons of the same category have the same base stats, with the weapon's type applying a buff to firing rate, ink coverage, or ink efficiency. Primo then takes that buff and doubles whatever it is. Maybe you already knew all of this, but I never bothered to investigate until I started timing out against these bottomless buffet stages. There is no trade-off for weakness to any weapon type outside of the opportunity cost of not choosing another. In other words, the weapon types are free upgrades here. The ink-efficient Oil Blaster saves 25% ink, while its Primo variant saves 50% ink. So it's a massive difference, until you remember that a single gadget use replenishes 60% of your ink tank, and they recharge every few seconds. The firing rate focused Butane Blaster fires 13 shots and gets halfway through the 14th, in the time that it takes a normal blaster to fire 10 shots. Meanwhile, my shiny new Primo Butane Blaster fires 17 shots in the same amount of time. For a more direct comparison, see the slow motion here. Oil Blaster takes 50 frames per shot, Butane Blaster takes 40 frames per shot, and Primo Butane Blaster only needs 30 frames for each shot. I'm measuring the video here using the first frame of the animation for the Inkling or Octoling player's body. They start to move a little bit when the shot begins. Honestly, until I specifically got the Primo version of the weapon that I've been using, the Butane Blaster, I didn't pay that much attention to them, and I didn't realize that I was at such a disadvantage by using the normal Butane Blaster on a high difficulty level. Of course, getting a Primo variant of a specific weapon type is so rare that there are still many I've never even seen once, according to Big Man. So don't feel too bad if you're like me and still searching for a Primo version of your favorite. For my next test, I equipped the large double jump relic and tested the engine rollers, which are tuned for firing speed as well. I found something cool. With a Primo engine roller, you can perform 3 vertical attacks before you touch the ground. I was hoping the Primo engine roller would allow me to do this, but I couldn't be sure until I got one and tested it, which was just recently. Despite being tuned for firing rate, the normal engine roller is not fast enough to perform 3 vertical attacks before touching the ground. Only the Primo version is fast enough to do that. It seems all Primo weapons double the bonus from whichever weapon you got with 0 downside. From my testing, there is never a reason to use a non-Primo version of a weapon outside of just not having the 5-star version of it dropped yet. You're putting yourself at an objective disadvantage unless you can't afford the ink cost of the firing rate, which you really should be able to. It costs hundreds of thousands of Spiralite and over a dozen gems to upgrade a weapon. I now have a level 100 Butane Blaster, and I still don't have enough Spiralite crystals or gems to fully level up my new Primo Butane Blaster. I just wish it was easier to build multiple weapons at once, or I wish you got gems back when you scrapped a weapon. So my warning to you with this test is, don't bother investing in non-Primo weapons beyond level 50, because you'll probably regret it. Your enemy in Raiders is not the Salmonids or your ink tank, it's the Power Egg meter and its 90-second timer. When you deal any damage, you get Power Eggs. More shots within 90 seconds means more Power Eggs. So who cares how much ink you have, as long as you never stop firing. I just use ink resupply on my speed gadget and go wild. Spiralite gems are my only choke point now that I basically have everything else, but they do seem to drop more frequently as the difficulty level goes up. So invest all your resources in a single Primo firing rate focused 5-star weapon, because nothing else in the game can compare. I'm working on another video about this blaster build that I've been using, which deals 1.4 million damage in a single hit. I've also got a Primo firing rate Splattershot Jr. I'm pretty excited about, but I haven't figured out the best build for it yet. There are a few different options I've been experimenting with, so let me know what you've been using and how far you've gotten in the bottomless buffet. Leave a like and comment with your favorite weapon in the game. With love and peace, thanks for watching.